tout their support of protesting. And then they don't follow it up with any concrete action. I'm speaking to our politicians here in Salt Lake City. On August 3rd, Mayor Mendenhall signed an executive order requiring some changes in Salt Lake City Police Department. One part of this was strengthening requirements for body-worn cameras. Fuck that! As we know, body-worn cameras do not stop police from murdering people. There is countless footage of police officers needlessly killing people, and Simgill excuses them over and over and over. The bottom line is the lives of these people do not belong in the hands of these officers. And yet they are violently taken from their families and loved ones. Their lives are taken by the state. Mayor Mendenhall, you can sign papers like the ones you signed 19 days ago that require a person's consent for searches without warrants? About fucking time? Like what? What the fuck is that? But police reform does not stop Salt Lake, West Valley, Unified Police Departments from killing members of our community. We see your posturing. We see your upholding of the racist institution we call law enforcement. On July 9th, Simgill excused the officers who killed Bernardo Palacios Carbajal.
Fuck that!
I know we know the story, but I'm going to tell you again. Bernardo was running away from them by the intersection of 900 South and 300 West when they shot at him 34 times and killed him. One officer is heard yelling in the videos, "Tase him, tase him," before the 34 shots were fired. Bernardo's last words were, "Officer, I don't want to die."
I don't want to die!
Officer, I don't want to die! Officer,
I don't want to die!
officer,
I don't want to die!
officer!
I don't want to die!
Bernardo's life did not belong in the hands of those officers. In that press conference on July 9th, Simgill spent an hour essentially blaming Bernardo for his own death. Fuck that. Fuck Simgill.
Fuck Simgill!
That night we protested. Right there. Right there we were charged by riot police. Right there, I was beat in the leg with a baton. I was charged by a riot officer who bashed my face and broke my nose. Right there, I was shot in the leg with a beanbag round from 4 feet away. That type of non-lethal bullet is supposed to be used from like 20 feet away or something like that.
Fuck the police!
I entered the hospital as a trauma patient that night. 2.5 weeks later, I found out I was being charged with crimes. Since then, these charges have become invasive to my life. I have never had to navigate anything like this because of my privilege. I grew up in Utah County, a white community whose access to social, political, economic resources comes at the cost of Black lives and the lives of people of color. I have never had to navigate legal repercussion for practicing my First Amendment right. I have never had to experience the very tangible fear of police coming into my home to arrest me or arresting me in public as I'm headed to the grocery store. I have never experienced the worry of putting others in danger with my presence. When I tried to turn myself in the first time, they said my warrant was still pending and turned me away, even though I had all the right appropriate papers with the judge's signature. I have never experienced the stigma of felony charges, which played a large part in me being fired from my job just 2 days ago.
What's up? How you doing?
Babies at Washington
I
Square
cannot
without
emphasize enough the mental and emotional exhaustion these charges and injuries have brought, and that is exactly why this is not about my charges. This is not about my injuries. This is about the criminal justice system which imprisons and dehumanizes Black and people of color at disproportionate rates. I never was harassed in my white neighborhood after I was charged like my friends who live in Rose Park. Communities of color are routinely targeted and harassed by police. Then a lot of these officers drive home to their white suburbs at the end of the day. Slavery never ended, it transformed. The 13th Amendment did not abolish slavery, it criminalized being black. Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
Black lives matter!
The criminal justice system is fueled by the collective greed of corporations of people with the most wealth. They make money off of the labor of incarcerated people. It is slavery transformed. Last time I spoke, I quoted her, but I'm going to quote her again. Ruth Wilson Gilmore said, "Capitalism requires inequality and racism enshrines it." Punishing people does not decrease crime rates. Endless research shows this. Throwing humans in cages does not teach them a lesson. It dehumanizes them and strips them of their resources and makes it harder for them to reach these manufactured ideals of success and achievement. Incarceration is a tool of white supremacy. Police functioning as protectors of our communities is a lie. They don't even serve white communities because they're too busy acting out the racist patterns of the people who came before them in black and brown communities. And we're here to hold them accountable. A system which upholds white supremacy must be abolished. We saw white supremacy being upheld blatantly a few weeks ago in Cottonwood Heights at the Dance for Revolution March. Or for Justice March. An incredibly excessive amount of police officers arrived at the scene and instigated horrifying violence. People were unjustly and violently arrested. It was another demonstration of the blatant overreach of political power of our elected officials and of police departments. The continual charges and arrests we have seen in Utah is blatant political suppression. In 2018, Sin Gill wrote a commentary piece published in the Salt Lake Tribune. The title is "DA's Role is Much More Than Going to Court," and I want you all to listen closely to Sin Gill's words. Part of this commentary, Sin Gill's words, he said, "Public trust, integrity, fairness, equality, and proportionality in punishment are just some of the expectations and promises we must embrace as our duty, not only in words but in actions that our citizens rightfully demand. As leaders, we must advocate for our community's sense of fairness and accountability." Y'all listening?
Let's go.
This is what he said next. "We must be personally accountable, not hiding behind the cover of our institutions, but embracing the controversial for our community and making decisions in an open, transparent, and accountable way, even if it is not personally advantageous. Because it is the right thing to do." Fuck Sin Gill. He finished that commentary by saying, "I ran for this office to do the difficult work that our community demands and deserves. The privilege of leadership is far more than a title. It is an opportunity to put our best effort forward in the service of our community, guided by our ideals of justice, fairness, equality, and truth. It is about solving problems, righting wrongs, giving voice to the hopeless, and advocating for the unheard and forgotten. In short, it's about serving you." That's what Sin Gill said. Has Sin Gill advocated for our community's sense of fairness and accountability? Has Sin Gill guided by ideas of justice, fairness, equality, and truth? Has he given voice to the hopeless and advocated for the unheard and the forgotten? Has he served us? Fuck Sin Gill. Sin Gill's decisions and actions have proven him to be a remarkable example of how our political legal prison systems work exactly as they were intended. They work to reward the people in power at the cost of other marginalized people, and we are holding him accountable for his role in the murders of too many lives lost. Justice for Alan!
Justice for Alan!
Justice for Dylan!
Justice for Dylan!
Justice for Patrick!
Justice for
Justice for Bernardo!
Justice for Bernardo!
Justice for Bernardo!
Justice for Bernardo!
As Sim Gill's abuse of power becomes clearer to more people, the power shifts. I'm going to quote one of our favorite activists again. The power of the people is stronger than the people in power. I have never known community like this. It has taught me love in ways I never knew.
Fuck yeah!
Power to the people!
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 Thank you.
Up next we have another community organizer, Amal, who's going to be speaking.
Hey, okay, I want y'all to repeat after me. Drop the charges! Drop the charges! Oh, bet. Say it. Okay. Drop the charges! On May 30th, we joined our brothers and sisters all across this country to demand justice for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all of those who had lost their lives at the hands of the police. That was later deemed a riot that night. That same week, they had sent to the National Guard to quell our cry for justice, because somehow, rather than giving in to our demands, they'd much rather protect murderers. 2 weeks later, on July 9th, people marched here, and there was paint, allegedly, there was paint spilled. Rather than putting those officers who had killed Bernardo Palacio, they would much rather criminalize those people fighting for justice. They'd much rather brutalize and demonize us. They say that we must uphold the law and respect it. Those same laws are the same laws that keep them in power and keep us down. Those same laws are the same ones that demonize us and strip us of our humanity and gives them the ability to criminalize us and murder us with impunity. We are not morally obligated to uphold any law that we never created. A system that was never designed for us will never truly serve us. Sorry, y'all. Okay.
You got this, baby!
They want to talk about using a gang enhancement charge, as though those people are somehow committed some kind of unquestionable crime. The only gang in this country is the police. They are the only ones that should be abolished. They are the murderers. They are the ones that criminalize and terrorize our community day in and day out. They're ready to go after death. Sim Gill and this whole goddamn system will use everything at their power to protect them. But their time is up. I want y'all to repeat after me real quick. It is our right to rebel.
It is a right to rebel!
It is our right to rebel.
It is our right to rebel!
We will not be silenced or deterred.
We will not be silenced or deterred!
Because our love for the people
Love for the people.
is stronger than any threats they make.
It's stronger than any threats that they make!
We the workers make this world run.
We the workers make this world run.
And we the workers shall soon run it.
We the workers shall soon run it.
Power to the people!
Power to the people.
Power to the people!
Power to the people.
Thank you so much, Amal. I want to bring up my friend and fellow activist, Manny.
Hey, Johnny!
Get up here, doggy.
Hey, let's make some noise for Manny!
Alright, before I mention this person that doesn't mean shit to me, I want to start by saying Justice for Bernardo!
Justice for Bernardo!
Can we say that again, please? Justice for Bernardo!
Justice for Bernardo!
First off, I personally think Sim Gill ain't shit. That's all I gotta say. I honestly hate saying his name. I call him Sim Gill because he's a loser. He charged a bunch of my friends, people I call my family, with felony charges, trying to put us away for life. For what? Your building? That's it? Your building? Fuck this building. I was talking to one of the cops today when I was watching these idiots, and he said that somebody came by yesterday and put glue on the window. Like, bro, people hate your fucking building and people hate you. The world hates you. Okay? So, I want to tell everybody, because we're all thinking that this idiot is the one that reduced everyone's charges. It was not this idiot. It was a prosecutor in another county. His name is, well, I'm going to call it like it is because a judge is prosecuting us, which is ridiculous. His name is Judge Nolan. He's an ex-juvenile judge who went back and undid everything that Sim Gill did. So he did not reduce any of our charges. He wanted those to stick. He dropped, fuck Sim Gill. He dropped, Nolan dropped the riot charges on a bunch of people. It's a start, but it's not what we want. We want these charges dropped. We want these charges dropped, we want them gone. And we're not going to stop till they're gone.
What's up, everybody? Woo, fuck yeah, such a good turnout. I'm so fucking happy to be here. I'm blessed to be here. I myself have been involved with these charges and bullshit that this motherfucker's trying to do. So I come from a country of genocide. I'm a first generation immigrant here to America. Yeah, fuck yeah. And I feel good here. I feel good here. I feel accepted here. I feel wanted here. People don't judge me because of my religion. I don't judge people because of their color, what they look like, or it's dumb. It's fucking dumb. Why are we killing people because of their skin color? Why? It doesn't make any fucking sense. You know what it is? You know what it is? You know why my family was thrown into mass graves? Sorry, I can't talk with this shit. Mass graves. Because they are Muslim. Disgusting. That's the only fucking reason. And why are they killing people here? Because they're of color. Because they are poor. Because they don't have resources. We don't have resources. And what happened in my country was a fucking genocide, and this looks quite similar. It looks similar, it looks familiar. No, we did not create this problem. I want to say no, we did not create this problem, but this is our problem to fix. It's on us. It's on the people. Sorry, I got some things right now. This is a direct result of what happens when we have leaders who allow hate speech to run rampant and we allow it to go unchecked. This is our problem. It is our duty to save others from a death completely avoidable. The louder we get, the harder it will be for the rest of the community to ignore us. So get loud and fucking stay loud. We're all out here because we refuse to fall arrogant to the situation that's going on, to the reality, because this is real. This is real. And this is the fight of the people for the people. And so what I've noticed is when we as a whole start to hold these killers accountable, they'll try to play the victim. And they will try to regain support from the community with their press conferences. But what they don't realize is that the community support is right here. The only people that we should have sympathy for is the victims' families, the victims themselves, and the courageous person standing next to you. So drop my charges. Drop our charges.
Drop our charges.
We have shown time and time again that we are not the aggressor. We are not the aggressor.
The victims' families needed them. Bernardo's family needed him. His nephew refuses to cut his hair because he wants to be like him. Dylan, Zane, George, Brianna, their families still need them. They should be alive today. And imagine the nerve that it takes to claim that it takes to claim that you're in fear of your life with a gun in your hand and back up by your side. George was scared. Bernardo was scared. What about their fear? I can't imagine what they felt. So to everybody bitching about the DA building, go ahead and cry over spilt paint while we cry over loved ones lost. Go ahead and attempt to show your power while we prove ours. And to Sam Gale, fuck you.
Fuck you. Sim Gill.
All right, so we got our next speaker, Marvin. Sorry, Sophie.
How's it going, everyone? Fuck Sim Gill!
You know this?
Fuck Sim Gill!
I'm way too shaky.
Okay, I want to start off by thanking everybody for being here once again this evening. I know it started off hot and you stuck through, and we're here. It's finally cooling down. I want to thank you all for being here for a lot of reasons. Some of them reasons I've talked about before in regards to being aware of some of the things that have happened, some of the responses we've had by law enforcement when we do show up to voice our freedom of speech. We show up to riot police as they attempted to tonight, and we proved our strength by continuing pressing forward, as I hope we continue to do. So I call that bravery, and I appreciate you guys' bravery for being here with us all tonight. I typically don't write notes, and I end up all over the place. I wrote notes tonight because I'm supposed to be cautious what I talk about, I guess. I'll probably still be all over the place, but bear with me, please. Alright, I think I lost one of them anyways. Well, I want to start off by talking about, I've been asked many a times what people hear me chant, justice for Cody. Justice for Cody!
Justice for Cody!
Justice for Cody!
Justice for Cody!
When I chant that, I've been asked on occasion what justice looks like to me and what justice would be for Cody. There's a lot of things that justice looks like, but one thing I know for sure is justice for all means justice for Cody. So with that being said, that gets me to think about the bigger picture. Cody is only one victim of hundreds here locally that have been killed by law enforcement, local law enforcement, and that have been protected by the officials that we've elected to oversee these police that are here to protect us, as they say as well. So when I talk about justice for all, we got to think about the bigger picture, and that means not just holding these particular officers accountable. It means holding the officials and the elected officials and the appointed officials accountable that uphold and protect these officers when they kill people. A couple of things we know in regards to these officials, a lot of their concerns is, I think most of us recognize their concerns are not in alignment. Their concerns are not our concerns. Their concerns are typically things like their next term, a campaign for higher office they may be running for after this term, campaign funds and financing through these buildings and businesses that they deploy their riot police and permit local racist militias to protect, quote unquote. That's what they let happen. So whenever we talk to them and ask them to do something real, to create real change and real accountability, they'll always start off with the most minuscule things. You know, a couple of things I witnessed was Aaron Mendenhall, Salt Lake City Mayor, and Salt Lake County Mayor Jenny Wilson, when a lot of these protests first started to happen in May. Some of the things I saw was both of them kneeling with protesters, making us believe that's the scope and that's the extent of what they could do to make change. But what kept happening was people kept showing up. People stayed in the streets. People stayed chanting justice for all. People stayed chanting no justice, no peace. And when they realized that we were serious, they started to throw us scraps and bones and kibbles and bits. I talk about that all the time. What's frustrating about those kibbles and bits they throw us are those are things that you know that they'll term as progress. What we all know is progress is relative. These things that they're throwing us in regards to body cams, in regards to people knowing their rights on searches and seizures, in regards to officers creating dangerous situations for themselves that later they use to justify murdering people. So these are things that they've known. That thing particularly is one thing that I know for a fact Sim Gill has known for, I expect, many years. He's been in office for 10 years, and about 2 years ago he had a meeting with myself and my family in regards to making the announcement that he was going to justify Cody's murder. So when we had that meeting, I brought up that specific example of how the illegal actions of law enforcement, them acting out of policies and stuff like that, helped create a scenario for them to be able to say these things why they were justified in killing my brother. And that was 2 years ago. That was one of the, when I brought that up to him, he basically said, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's the way it works. 2 years ago, I asked him, if you don't agree with it, would you tell me and my family today that you'll stand with us and other families to change this? I asked him specifically that. He tap danced and did his wordplay and all that and backed out of it. He wouldn't agree to that. So I know 2 years ago, after dozens of lives have been lost at the hands of local law enforcement, is when he decides to come up with these 22 suggestions. Those 22 suggestions aren't anything new. Many of them are no-brainers. We talk about non-use of force being used in a mental health crisis when nobody is in imminent danger, stuff like that. That's a no-brainer. That's common sense. And that's one of those crumbs and buttons they're throwing us. They talk about body cams. Body cams, as they said, aren't preventing these murders. They're just proving that the system and the police state is willing to protect these murderers. So when we talk about, you know, this relative progress, we have to think about it as just that. These are things that we should have had as a no-brainer given, and now only after so many people staying in the streets and demanding justice, demanding change, is when they're willing to throw those scraps and bones. I call them scraps and bones because that's exactly what they are. They're things we should have had, and they're things that they're to the level of things you'd give to animals. That I feel strongly that's what they see us as. The proof behind that is what happens when the mayor and these officials deploy cops on unsheltered residents here in the middle of winter, steal their survival gear, in the middle of summer, and tell them they can't sit in shade. They look at us as animals when we protest and speak out because they come out here and beat us like dogs. So what I'll say is when these officials start to tell you that their hands are tied, their powers are limited, things like that, we need to make sure that we know they're not. It's been proven. Erin Mendenhall said that for years. But what happens when she gets pressure from all you folks and everybody out here and everybody else? She comes up with executive orders all of a sudden. You know, these are things to save face. We understand they're minuscule and stuff like that. The changes that she's making. We know a lot of it has to do with de-escalation training and things like that. What they're doing with these things they're throwing us is they're trying to individualize liability. They're trying to place liability solely on officers that commit these murders. They do hold a lot of liability, but they're not the only ones. These officials, this police state holds just as much liability for letting it continue to happen. One example of that is, I'm sure many of you know the acronym, the OICI investigation, Officer Involved Critical Incident. That's the investigation they claim is unbiased and transparent when cops kill people and murder people. The thing about that is you gotta relate it to some of these bones they're throwing us too. Is the thing that happens when that happens is also an internal investigation. The internal investigation, though, is ran separately than the OICI investigation. No. And the reason for that being is because many times these murders happen because cops have acted out of policy, protocols, and procedures. So, if they were to run those investigations together, it would show that the responsibility and the accountability should not solely be on the cops. It needs to be on the state. They cannot accept that type of accountability and liability. I'll finish this up, guys. I'm sorry. One thing I want to say is I've been asked to speak over the past few years on primarily police brutality and stuff, and I don't always accept. I knew I needed to today. I may not always accept moving forward, but the reason now moving forward I'm less likely to accept is because I'm so inspired and so proud of seeing all the other voices get out here and speak and say how they feel, tell these politicians what they need to do. One thing that comes to mind is I actually just ran into the person here not long ago. They had spoke at West Valley PD just a couple weeks ago on defunding the police department out there. And I've spoken about this to a couple people since then, actually. What they brought up was when people start talking about abolishing the police and defunding the police, the rebuttal a lot of times is always, well, what are we going to do when people break our shit or steal our shit or do this, that, and the other? And one thing that they mentioned was, well, first of all, you have to imagine what it would be like without having the police. And so that's what they start to talk about, is they imagine, people robbing them, killing them, stealing from them, breaking, vandalizing them and stuff. But what I ask that people think about rather than that and imagine is imagine we didn't have to deal with police harassing and brutalizing and criminalizing our unsheltered neighbors and relatives here on the street. Imagine a state that when people come out to express their freedom of speech, that we wouldn't have to deal with the brutality that the state and the police force bring and beat these protesters. Imagine that police didn't utilize their power to solely intimidate and criminalize people that aren't on their same agenda, that might not have the financial means and live in an affluent community, things like that. So imagine we didn't have to deal with that stuff. Imagine we didn't have to worry about police pulling over one of our loved ones or profiling one of our loved ones and killing one of our loved ones. Imagine that we didn't have to spend $80 million on a murderous police force that has a reputation for murder. And imagine we use that $80 million for things that we know make a difference and improve our communities, like mental health, substance misuse, rape recovery, building mutual aid projects to really support our community here locally. And I want to finish by saying, a lot of the inspiration that I talk about that I've seen lately and I love is the inspiration of our youth. We have youth today that's stepping up and letting these officials know that they will stand no more for this lack of accountability and the brutality that police bring upon their friends and community members. So taking that into mind, when we talk about defunding the police and pulling that $80 million from the police force here, let's imagine that we use things like that to also pull out the school resource officers, the school cops that are in our kids' schools, that when they show up in the morning looking for an education and even sometimes a meal to eat, that they don't have to worry about a school cop there to intimidate them and criminalize them over something that we've all done as youth. And then from there, they carry that sort of stuff with them as adults. So that's the type of stuff I'd like you to imagine. I try to keep it simple tonight, guys. But I do want to say, once again, I appreciate you all for being out here. There's many familiar faces that I always love seeing, even through masks. And no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Justice for all. Justice for all. Justice for all. Justice for all. And as always, justice for Cody. Justice for Cody.
Woo!
You have to keep it sideways. You have to keep it sideways.
One more speaker. Can I have Merc come up?
Yeah, it's alright. It will be crooked on the video. That's fine. It's alright.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Fuck the police. Fuck the police. I'm ready. Alright. Let me give you a little context behind this one. Who remembers Dylan Roof?
Fuck Dylan Roof!
Fuck Dylan Roof.
Dylan Roof walked up into a church, killed 9 people, and he got Burger King after that. The cops bought him Burger King. So if they can do that after he just walked into a church and shot 9 people, why can't they chase somebody around the block and bring them in alive? So after that, I want to give another fuck the police. And I want to hit y'all with this. It's called Dylan Gets a Burger. In the arena with my hands up, these villains behind me, but I got my fist up. My people still getting roughed up. Can you blame me? I got a load of 9 up. Dylan got a burger, Bernardo got 40 shots. Dylan emptied a few mags, Losky ran a couple blocks. Dylan gets a burger, George gets a knee. Dylan was planning violence, George just trying to eat. Dylan gets a burger, Brianna got swat. Dylan got swat, Brianna the only one got shot. Dylan was stone sober, Chad had one too many. These bloodthirsty monsters really treating us like the enemy. I don't feel safe, I'ma return the favor. Set a couple fires, I'ma sit back and savor the look on these bastards' faces. In flames they favorite places. I'ma stand in your streets, I'ma stand with my heat. I'ma yell at your coppers, don't you know? If you didn't notice, all lives ain't sweet. enraged, encaged, DNA scars from days of slaves. They want the unrest, any excuse for them not to pay. Play for play, by far cheating's America's way. I won't stay silent, I might get violent. I'ma start a riot, fuck just being defiant. Crooked ass cops, innocent blood on my blocks, it's okay. Just a gangster that got shot. Fuck that. Gambling with chips that they ass can't cash. Playing with my life, find a pig in tall grass. Aiming down rifles, regurgitating Bibles. This life of ours filled with the ills of a country's trifles. Serving out the hatch the only way a lot of families eat. I can't stay calm, these predators look at me like meat. I'm a warrior, I won't settle until my enemies defeat.